Alright, good morning my dear students. You are very welcome to this lesson presented to you by teacher Julius, our first physics lesson. So, without wasting time, let me take you through what we are going to look at today, and then we proceed. So in today's lesson, we are going to look at our topic, which is light, and we shall have a focus on reflection of light as one of the properties of light. So we need to understand what is reflection of light. We need to know how it happens. So in this lesson, these are the objectives of the lesson. That means by the end of the lesson, you must have grasped such. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to understand the meaning of reflection of light, understand the types of reflection of light, know the terms used in reflection of light, and then the relationship between deviation and the glancing angle. So those are our key areas to focus on, and make sure by the end of the lesson you must have grasped all those learning outcomes. So reflection of light as a concept has existed in very many areas, in very many aspects, in very many phenomena. For example, formation of images in plane mirrors, like you use plane mirrors to see yourselves, and that is because of reflection of light. Just as you can see my friend there, besides here, this one is a mirror. So the person is standing here, you can see the image in the mirror. This is because of reflection of light. So reflection of light exists in very many areas, and that's why we need to know about it, and then perhaps we come up with new developments in physics because of the knowledge we have about reflection of light. And then we should not ask ourselves when certain things happen because of reflection of light, because we shall be having the knowledge. So I wish you a nice participation. So reflection of light is a process by which light energy bounces off from the reflecting surface. Reflecting surface is going to be the barrier that obstructs the light ray as it moves. So if I have my barrier here, this is not a good barrier. I have my barrier there, and then a light ray is incident on it. It is going to bounce back, and that bouncing back is what we call reflection of light. So this light ray is coming after meeting the barrier or the reflecting surface. It is reflected back, or it is bounced back. So the way light is reflected depends on the nature of the surface. Sometimes we can have rough surfaces, sometimes we can have plain or smooth surfaces. Those are the two surfaces we know. Remember your knowledge of friction. So what happens if light falls on a smooth surface, and what happens when light falls on a rough surface, like for example in these pictures here. This is an example of light falling on a smooth surface. A torch producing a parallel beam of light, and this parallel beam of light is reflected as a parallel beam of light. You can see that. And then we have another reflection where light falls on a rough surface. Yes, here you can see. In here, the reflected rays are reflected in different directions, but the beam that is coming is parallel. Over the beams are parallel, but you see that the reflected rays are pointing in different directions. So we have two types of reflection. We have the regular reflection, where the parallel beam of light falls on a smooth surface and it is reflected as a parallel beam. And then we have the irregular or diffuse, whereby the parallel beam of light falls on a rough surface, and then it is reflected in different directions. So those are the two types of reflection we have. Remember, we have regular and irregular. You need to understand the definition, so that takes us to another slide. So what is regular reflection? Regular reflection is a type of reflection when a parallel beam of light is incident on a smooth surface and it is reflected as a parallel beam. The example is already there, and we are saying that this one applies in plane mirrors. It is because of regular reflection that we are able to see our images in plane mirrors. For irregular reflection or diffuse reflection, this is a type of reflection whereby you have a parallel beam of light falling on a rough surface and it is reflected in different directions, and light rays are reflected in different directions. So this type of reflection is the very type that we use when we are reading books. All that happens when we are reading books, you are able to read all corners because of the irregular reflection of light ray. Remember, for you to see an image, the light rays must be coming from an object into your eyes. So these light rays from the words are reflected in different directions so that we are able to see in every corner of the book. In this concept of reflection, we have some key terms that we must know, and these terms are going to become part of us, or we shall always refer to them. So for us to define those terms, we are going to consider that diagram you're seeing. We are having our plane mirror or the plane surface, and then an incident ray being reflected in this direction OB. And then in between you're seeing a dotted line which represents the normal. So we are going to define all those terms, and then some angles here, G, I, and R. We need to know the meaning of all those terms. So the first term is the incident ray. Incident ray, when you look at the diagram here, it is the ray A, O. This is the ray that is approaching the reflecting surface. Then the reflected ray is the ray of light that is leaving the reflecting surface after the reflection. Then the normal, of course, you can see that it is going to be the perpendicular line to the reflecting surface. So this is the line at right angle to the reflecting surface. That is the normal. Then the other terms, we have the angle of incidence, which is I. We denote it with small I. This is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. Then the angle of refraction is going to be denoted with small r, and that is the angle between the reflected ray and the normal. And then the glancing angle G is going to be the angle between the incident ray and the reflecting surface, just as you can see on the diagram here. The diagram is self-explanatory. So after that, after knowing those terms, we shall look at laws of reflection of light. These laws are very important because they guide us as we are studying our concept of reflection of light. So we are saying that the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. I emphasize this. You can see if you have your reflecting surface, the plane surface, like that, and then you have the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence. This is the point of incidence here. That is the point of incidence where all the three lie in the same plane. Then the other secondary law is that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of refraction. The angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal, and then the angle of refraction, the angle of reflection is the angle between the normal and the reflected ray. So I is equal to R. Those are the two laws of reflection of light. So let us look at the concept of deviation. When you have your incident ray, you can see that initially it would have continued in this direction, but because of the reflecting surface, it is deviated through a given angle. So this total angle from here up to here is what we are referring to as the deviation. So deviation is going to be the angle through which the light ray is changed or turned.